Welcome top news today.
Executive order sends strong message to China's communist regime that America will hold persecutors accountable. December 22, 2017, 3:35 p.m. Last updated December 22, 2017, 5:31 p.m. President Donald Trump on Thursday put the world on notice that America will no longer accept severe human rights abuses and corruption taking place around the world. Trump issued an executive order declaring a national emergency to deal with those who commit such crimes. In explaining his actions, Trump makes reference to the importance of values, and the damage perpetrators have done to societies around the world. The new executive order relies in part on the authority given by the Global Magnitsky Act, which enables the executive branch to impose visa bans and sanctions on individuals responsible for human rights violations or significant corruption. Trump orders the freezing of assets of individuals and the banning of perpetrators from entering the United States. Is a definite message to those who commit human rights abuses and engage in corruption that the United States, under President Trump, will no longer stand for it. Not only does the executive order target those who commit the crimes, it also targets those who enable them, whether they are foreigners or U.S. citizens. For too long the world has seen those responsible for severe human rights abuses act with impunity. With the executive order, Trump is showing the world that America first does not mean that America does not care what happens around the world. With Trump in office, America has returned to a position of being a moral leader in the world. President Donald Trump departs the White House en route to Florida on December 22, 2017. Trump has signed an executive order declaring a national emergency over severe human rights abuses and corruption around the world. Charlotte Cuthbertson, Epoch Times. One of the biggest, and in many ways overlooked, human rights abuses taking place today is the persecution of Falun Gong in China. The peaceful meditation practice became hugely popular in China in the 1990s, to the point that an estimated 100 million Chinese were practicing it. China's communist regime and its party leader Jiang Zemin couldn't stand the popularity of the practice, which operated outside of the ideological control of the Communist Party. Since July 1999, over 4,000 Falun Gong practitioners have been documented to have been killed as a result of a vicious persecution campaign launched by Jiang. The actual number is believed to be much higher, due to the difficulty of getting sensitive information out of China. In launching the persecution, Jiang gave the orders to ruin their reputations, bankrupt them financially, and destroy them physically. He used China's vast resources, including its state media, its military, its police force, its education system, and even its healthcare system, to launch an unprecedented persecution campaign against the group of peaceful meditators. Yin Liping testifies before the Congressional Executive Commission on China, April 14, 2017 on China's pervasive use of torture. Ms. Yin is a Falun Gong practitioner who survived torture, forced labor, and sexual violence in Masanjia and other forced labor camps in China. Lisa Fan, Epoch Times. According to the U.S. State Department in the 2016 International Religious Freedom Report, the Chinese regime maintains to this day an extra-legal, party and security apparatus to eliminate the Falun Gong movement. Falun Gong sources estimate that millions of practitioners have been unlawfully detained in China's forced labor camps, prisons, black jails, detention centers, and so on, since 1999. But China's atrocities have expanded well beyond the mere torture and killing of its prisoners of conscience. A simulation of organ harvesting from Falun Gong practitioners in China is enacted during a rally in Ottawa, Canada, on Sept. 26, 2006. Epoch Times. Since 2006 there have been numerous credible allegations that the Chinese regime established a state-sponsored system of forced organ transplantations, with the main source of the organs coming from Falun Gong practitioners. The allegations were first reported by the Epoch Times in March 2006. In response to an invitation from the Committee to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong in May 2006, David Kilgour, former Canadian Secretary of State for Asia-Pacific, and international human rights lawyer David Mattis, researched and detailed the claims of forced organ harvesting. In their initial investigative report published in July 2006, the researchers uncovered a widespread availability of organs of Falun Gong practitioners for sale in Chinese hospitals. Kilgour and Mattis concluded in their research that these Falun Gong practitioners were killed for their organs while being held in detention. The organs were sold to wealthy Chinese and foreigners who could request a transplant within a time period as short as days. While the Chinese regime has always denied the allegations, it has not been able to account for the massive increase in organ transplants taking place in China since the persecution of Falun Gong began. Former Canadian MP David Kilgarell and international human rights lawyer David Matas testified on their 7-year investigation into illegal organ harvesting in China at the Human Rights Subcommittee of the Canadian Parliament on Feb. 5, 2013. Matthew Little, Epoch Times. The allegations have also raised concerns in the highest levels of government in the United States. In June 2016, the House of Representatives adopted a resolution expressing concern regarding persistent and credible reports of systematic, state-sanctioned organ harvesting from non-consenting prisoners of conscience in the People's Republic of China, including from large numbers of Falun Gong practitioners and members of other religious and ethnic minority groups. Chairman of the Taiwan Association for China Human Rights, Yang Hyong-hong, told Sound of Hope Radio SOH that U.S. officials are compiling a list of Chinese officials involved in forced organ harvesting. Yang said that during a recent visit to Taiwan, he was told by a U.S. State Department official that the U.S. State Department is doing a great deal of preparation right now. The State Department official also brought up the situation of how Falun Gong is being persecuted very severely, in particular, the issue of live organ harvesting. A great deal of Chinese officials are involved in the organ harvesting criminal syndicate to a greater or lesser extent, Yang said. A view of the U.S. Department of State in Washington is seen on July 31, 2014. Paul J. Richard Safe PGT Images. Yang said that no other persecution cases have been documented in such specific detail as the materials on hand pertaining to the issue of live organ harvesting, so, as the U.S. official said, those materials concerning Falun Gong are the most comprehensive, and are the easiest to compile. Yang said he had been informed by U.S. officials as early as February that the State Department was working on compiling a list and that the president would use the global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act to go after persecutors. Alongside Trump's executive order, 13 individuals have already been targeted by the Treasury Department. Among those is Gao Yan, the director of the Beijing Public Security Bureau Chaoyang branch, over the death of a human rights activist in detention in March 2014. As director, Gao was responsible for enforcing the persecution of Falun Gong. Ministry of Foreign Affairs official Chen Yubing has sued the Chaoyang branch for unlawful detention and torture suffered in 2012 for his practice of Falun Gong. The executive orders list also targets Mukhtar Hamid Shah, a Pakistani surgeon specializing in kidney transplants, who Pakistani police believe to be involved in kidnapping, and the removal of and trafficking in human organs. These two examples show that those who engaged or enabled the torture and killing of innocent citizens, or the involuntary removal of organs from people, such as Falun Gong practitioners, could soon well be targeted under Trump's state of emergency. Views expressed in this article are the opinions of the author and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Epoch Times. Share tweet, share email.